Hello. Hello. Welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg. Today's guest is my girlfriend for her 7th or 8th appearance on the podcast. It's Kendra Adachi, and it's another one of our conversations about our relationship in which we attempt to remove the veil of superficial social media updates, talk about the real shit. And in this conversation, you will hear that Kendra and I were kind of a little bit like ships passing in the night for a couple weeks due to some external circumstances. We talk about what happened when we drifted apart. We talk about how we got back on the same track, how we reconnected. We talk about emotions and grief and loss and our reliance upon certain fundamental / foundational approaches for maintaining our relationship, and how we neglected those things and what occurred when we did. So it's an open and honest conversation, and it's always fun to hear the responses from you listening. And so thank you for the feedback. Thanks for the request. Thanks for saying to me, hey, when are you having Kendra back on the podcast? I really like when you guys communicate together. So here it is. Another conversation with Kendra Adachi. Enjoy. Oh, and thanks for following. I am grateful for you being here. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. It sincerely matters. And I know I'm like a broken record at this point, but it does help. And it does mean a lot. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And now you can get my girlfriend's voice in your ear bones. All right. So the topic of this month is...
the fact that it's been a heavy month emotionally, energetically in our household, and how we navigated what came up in our relationship from that, and
we haven't done one of these in a while either.
We haven't done one of these in a while, and part of that is because this month has been really full of needing space. I feel like needing space to be with what we both were experiencing, and with that too came like the sensation of us going apart, and then having the conversation to come back together in relationship.
We were in rough seas, and our ships were losing sight of each other a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it.
And then we're like, yo, you're a little too far away from me in these stormy seas. I think we should try to get back on similar tracks.
Steer the sail back.
Yeah. Tack to the right. I think that's what they say.
So yeah, there was like a big feeling, and for both of us, of disconnection. Though I felt as though alone in feeling disconnected, and we talked about this.
But we should discuss that though, because I think that's important.
Yeah. So like I felt alone in the disconnection, and the stories in my head were that like, is he not aware of this disconnect? Does he not notice how our relationship is very disconnected right now? And
does he care?
Does he care? Does he even care? And so I felt it was important to initiate and talk about that. And then I noticed that when I did, you felt the same. You felt similarly, and we're actually also going to bring this up. However, you were being conscious of my state, and it was kind of like difficult to discern when was good to approach this topic. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think we should give some background too about
what was going on.
What the shit show was. So you were grieving.
I was grieving
the loss of your best friend.
And I'm still grieving.
And you are still grieving. And his name is Doobie, and he's a dog. And in a previous podcast episode a couple years ago, you talk about how literally that dog saved your life and has been a huge component of your heart. And as I'm talking, her eyes are closed and she's probably going to cry, and that's okay. So you were going through that, and there was a lot of family grief with your sibling and parents and discussions around end of death experiences and how to navigate those logistics. So that was probably at least a week, maybe 2 weeks of intense emotion and uncertainty and sadness and grief.
Yeah. It was like, it's interesting. I actually just talked about this today on Instagram, that the body knows grief before the mind does.
I saw that was a good post.
Thank you. And like that's like very much what my experience was like my mind was kind of like almost like still attempting to do day-to-day things, and my body felt very different. My body was sad, and the experience of sadness and grief was very much alive and present. And I feel like it took some time for my mind to get with the program. But so, yeah, basically, Doobie lived a really happy 14-year life and very loved. So many mixed emotions of just the loss, but also the deep gratitude. And so the waves of that and the energy of those waves living with another human,
Me.
You, I know is just, it's a lot of energy in itself. And literally for about it was like 2 weeks was like the eye of the storm of literal despair, on my knees sobbing. And
I mean, I don't think it was the eye of the storm. I think it was like the storm. Like
yeah,
the eyes got kind of peaceful and calm. Although I think there was some of that halfway through.
Yeah, that's
like,
why
she's made it through.
Yeah, that's why I said there was like ebbs and flows of it.
Yeah.
Like there's like the moments of like great gratitude of like the memories, knowing that he's so loved, and just the whole relationship to impermanence, and my belief of when we pass on, like that it is a really beautiful experience. I mean, I don't know, though that's something that I choose to believe, and some things that I've read, and just knowing that anyway, that's a whole topic in itself.
But I think I would add, while that was happening, I had my own unexpected emotional thing come up, which I haven't and won't talk about publicly right now.
Yeah,
I may be
fine.
Forced to one day. But and so I was having hard conversations, and I was dealing with a lot of emotion, and I was also in it, right? Kind of confronted with this unexpected event. And so I think we were concurrently dealing with our own stuff while attempting to navigate a relationship as well. And so from my perspective, going back to the drifting apart idea, I was like going through some stuff, but also like it wasn't my stuff, if that makes sense. It was like dealing with other people's emotions and experiences, and I was holding a lot of space and navigating a lot of uncertainty. So I did kind of feel like I was in the eye of a storm of like, fuck, like I was seeing lots of people cry, and I was having heart-to-heart conversations, and there was a lot of fear, and then I was living with a woman who was grieving, and there was that one day where like within a minute of being awake, I had like you on my chest crying, and that was really beautiful and powerful, and I like feeling supportive. And part of me was like, fuck, like I've only been awake for a minute, and like I felt immersed in it, right? And so when I was going through my own stuff, I saw you grieving, and I was like, I don't know if this is the best time to talk about the dishes or the laundry or the disconnection or my own needs or all of that. And so I kind of like pulled back a little bit, and maybe you can take over here, but we kind of realized through that process that it wasn't the best option.
Yeah.
It wasn't my intentions were good, and my intentions were to kind of protect you in a sense so that you could deal with your own stuff. But I think now looking back, I realized that it actually caused a little bit more disconnection and emotion than anticipated.
Yeah. And what's important, I think, to address is that we wouldn't have come to the realization that we did if we hadn't had this experience, if we hadn't had the experience of you choosing to kind of step back. And again, the intention being like, I'll give her space, like she's in it. And I do appreciate that. And there's definitely moments where like the bedroom door's closed, I'm literally a puddle on my knees, and I just need to sob and be in that energy. But what I really realized that in those moments of really feeling this grief and processing and moving through sadness, I now can say that I know that what I really needed was to be checked in on more often.
I'm just cautious of like, through those descriptions of me coming across as like an indifferent ass. But like when I say I was giving you space, it wasn't like I was avoiding you or ignoring you or like being a jerk. I would check in on you and I would do kind things.
Yeah.
It just wasn't at the level that was needed.
Yeah.
I think that's the misunderstanding.
And part of my misunderstanding and what I said earlier was like the stories that I was saying to myself was like, does he not notice that there's a disconnection here?
Right.
And because I really felt like, I think I said that I didn't feel held from it. And so a lot that what I was experiencing, which was actually so beautiful and in a way like it's all perfect, is that I was really holding myself. And in that, I also was able to really feel like, what is it that like I need? And I recognized that what was lacking was like a very heart connected connection check-in from you. That was like, not just like, hey, how you doing today? But that was just like stop, like place your hand on my heart, like look into my eyes, like how are you? It's like such a different approach. Like I realized that I needed to almost like be seen in it, that I needed to feel that kind of depth of connection with you. And all this is to say is in part, wanting to also really come back into the relationship. That being part of like the reasoning why like this deeper connection was important, was not just to check in and like on my grieving, but just like, how are we? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think to try to clarify that, I think was like, I knew that you were not 100%. Like it was very obvious that you were in grief and sad and like a shell in the sense of like who you normally are. Like, and that's totally understandable. Right. And I felt like it wasn't the best time. I mean, looking back, what I would have probably done was some aspect of like, hey, I know you are going through a lot right now, and I'm here for you, and I love you. And I feel, I just want to speak to the disconnection that I feel and that you're probably feeling, because you're a fucking antenna for sensations. Like I just want to name that. Like, yeah, I think there's a disconnection here, and we have a lot going on right now, but I'm here for you, and you're in the distance, but I'm keeping an eye on you, and I'm not going to let you get too far away from me that you get lost at sea. Like I'm observing, and we will come back together, and I'm here, and like, what do you need?
Yeah.
I think some aspect of that approach would have been really helpful.
Yeah.
Rather than just seeing you as like, oh, Kendra's got it. She's handling it. She's going through a lot, but like she's doing okay. Mm-hmm. And I kind of was like, yeah, I'll flag this and we'll talk about it in a couple days, you know, when she's maybe feeling more up to it. Mm-hmm. Not realizing that the postponement of that was actually causing a little bit more harm than intended.
And I think something that's important to address here is like when we did come back together and we're like, we need to have a conversation and talk about all of this, is we realized that we stopped doing what we initially agreed to do, which was be really radically honest with what's coming up for us.
Yeah.
And
well, like you proposed like, hey, we should talk. And I was like, yeah, we should. Because I felt it immediately. Like, yeah, I'm glad you said it and that you're ready. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And
like from my perspective, like there's no going back, and potentially the next round of human experience that is filled with grief and gratitude. What I know now that would be beneficial is to also communicate and say, yeah, you could see it, and I know that I did communicate. Like, I feel like a shell of a human. And
like sometimes, sorry to interrupt, but like sometimes I would ask, and you're like, I don't know what I need right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what I need you to say, and so.
Yeah, and that's part of like why we're having this conversation now. Totally. Is like I recognize now, like what would be the most beneficial, and for me to then also even say like I know that I just need to hear or need to just know that you are here, just to check in on me. And that's something that I know I brought up in the past when it comes to like when I've been in depressive episodes. Like anybody who's listening, when you're in it, it's very difficult to make any sort of decision of what you even need, even on a basic level. Mm-hmm. But when you're out of it, in my experience, when I'm out of it, I recognize like, yeah, it's really helpful to have somebody just to check in and like even just be like, hey, found a funny movie, we're watching this tonight. And like just make those decisions. Super helpful to just support like getting out of that whole dark sort of energy space. But this was different, and this was grief, this was sadness, and so many other complexities. And what I just recognize now moving forward is to just really request and say, hey, yeah, I recognize we've both been in this, and there's also like gifting each other space to be in that, because I think it's really important not to like smother, like not to try to there's no fixing, and that I think it's really important that we all allow ourselves to really feel like what it is that we need to feel to come to surface. But then in that being like, how can I support you in this? Even if you don't know, like, is it just like a hand on the shoulder? Is it just, simple little things that just kind of support life to feel a little bit easier? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think like two things that I like take away from that experience is the first being how powerful and helpful it is to reaffirm what is true and what is known. So for example, like, I love you, I'm not going anywhere, I've got you, like I'm here if you need me, anytime you want, I'm here to give you a hug, whatever. So just stating the kind of obvious assumptions, I suppose, and just speaking to those frequently. Yeah. So as like a reminder or an affirmation that hasn't changed, because I know that for you at least, and I do maybe for all of us, that like when we're in it, sometimes those voices appear.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, does he even care about me? Yep. No one wants to be with me like this. I'm too much for him, blah, blah, blah. And so I think speaking to the other side of those is really powerful. So that's the first one. The second one was my own personal self-care.
Yes.
Of filling my cup, where I'm like, I did feel like at the eye of a storm. Like, I remember talking to a friend and being like, I'm good. Like, I'm really good. I'm fit. I've been sleeping great. Work's going good. I'm happy. And I'm also surrounded in this period of life by intense emotional experiences that are not my own. Mm-hmm. And it's draining me. And I'm like tired of tears. Like I'm tired of people crying. And I mean that just as like a bratty, frustrated voice, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was important at that time to go for a walk, to check out and go and get in nature, to reach out to my network and be like, hey, I needed to chat. I just need to vent. Like, can you tell me I'm not an asshole right now? And so in filling my own cup, because it was feeling like those around me were emptying it at a faster clip than normal, I had to then kind of kick up another notch in my self-care routines and my selfishness in a way. Mm-hmm. So I think those are two things that I took away from it.
Yeah, that's really important, because that's something we even talked about too, is I didn't notice you filling your cup. Like, you didn't go for walks. And I feel like that would have been really beneficial for sure. And like,
well, I didn't go for enough walks, I would say.
Okay. Well, yeah, like there's like I noticed that too. And
it's difficult, right? Like, we're in a pandemic and it's a 1-bedroom apartment and like sort of like things beeping.
And so what this again comes back down to is this really important concept that we like really started our relationship on, is radical honesty. And not just radical honesty with each other, but with ourselves. And that was something huge for me, was being so radically honest of like, this is what needs attention. Like I canceled and rescheduled my whole life, and was just being really radically honest that like my capacity right now like is just with this experience, and in the future I could have it would be, I think, supportive for our relationship for me to also communicate with you of like, I'm not going anywhere and I love you, and I am going to really be allowing myself to be deep in this process. And if it feels disconnected because we've had this experience, please come, like, permission to come forward to connect on that. And I am creating the space to allow myself to really be in this, and it's going to be messy and it's going to be uncertain, and I am not going to force or anything, but just being so radically honest with that moment of like, for myself personally, like, this is what I know to be true of what I need at this moment, and for you to know like where I'm at in that. And for me too, to like fill my cup, and like that was part of my filling my cup, was canceling everything and giving myself a lot of permission for recognizing stories that wanted to show up of like,
I'm a bad girlfriend.
I'm a bad coach for like canceling. I'm a bad human for canceling, rescheduling everything. Those stories truly didn't last that long, because my heart of hearts knew what really needed to happen. But yeah, like, I mean, just full honesty here on this podcast, like, our intimacy was disconnected.
We weren't having sex.
We weren't having sex. Yeah. And yeah, it was almost like, what I feel like would be really beneficial, and like, this is why we're having this conversation, and what we like are coming back together for, is in life when we have these moments in partnership, because when you're in a partnership, we see everything. Like, we're going to experience a lot of different things together, and this was one of them, is like, not only feeling safe in our own internal capacity to be with whatever the experience is, but the relationship in itself, feeling safe in that capacity of, how do I say this? Like, knowing that, okay, I can go to the depths of grief and Jeremy can be experiencing his own stuff, but really knowing that like, we're good and we're solid here, and we're going to communicate the best that we can. Like, yeah, today's still a really rough day. I think what you said, like, just touching on the foundational, radically honest pieces, is really supportive for a relationship. Just like every day being like, you know, whatever happens today in this emotional storm, I'm still not going anywhere, and I still love you, and I'm still here, and we're gonna navigate this together. And something that was really sweet that I feel like we did still tend to was we made sure we let each other know that we were still teammates and partners throughout all of it, and that was supportive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you have a really cute way of saying it too. You are my
teammate.
Yeah, we're pals.
We're partners.
And I think to add to that and maybe start to wrap it up is we talked about the idea of like fundamental, foundational principles or actions that we slacked off on, for lack of a better phrase. We weren't having really good eye-to-eye quiet conversations like we're having right now. Like for a while we were doing the podcast as part of that to ensure that we did communicate and find some time to prioritize the relationship. It's like we are the parental figures for this external thing that we need to feed. And like if we don't meet to chat about that thing, it's like, hey, have you watered the relationship lately? Like, no, I thought you were watering it. It's like, hey, have you fed the relationship lately? Like, no, I thought you were gonna feed it. And suddenly a week or two goes by and the relationship is thin and parched and pissed off.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's been neglected. And so I think part of what we've described here is recognizing what you and I individually, like what our relationship needs and how we can serve that relationship and how we can come back towards each other.
Yeah.
Right? If like we're disconnected, we need to be more connected.
Yeah.
Like here's how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And also I've found it comforting to remember other times in the past that we've felt disconnected or that we've drifted apart and that we do come back together. It's like it ebbs and flows, so to speak. And I think the one thing we did discuss is making sure that we don't disconnect too far, whereby we can't find our way back to each other. And I think maybe that ship analogy is perhaps an adequate one of like, yeah, we're a little bit far apart, but it feels comfortable. I think that's how it normally is, maybe arm's length to use a different metaphor. But like if you're around the block and I can't find you, there's no smoke signal, then it's like, okay, we've gone a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Let's start moseying our way back together.
Yeah. And so just something else that I want to share that is we both really trusted this intuitive feeling of like there's something, this isn't right. Like
about what?
About our relationship.
All right.
That like
something's
off. We're disconnected. This is not our normal, so to speak. Like we both felt like, yeah, like we've got to address this. And then we spoke to it and we said, like I spoke to it and then you said, I'm glad that you mentioned it and that you were going to speak to it. But we both were feeling this thing. And I think it's really important that that we trusted that and that we both spoke to it. And then we both said like, hey, I'm really feeling this and let's create the space to talk about it, because I just wonder how many people may have experienced, and like I've personally experienced, like feeling this kind of disconnect and almost like, again, in the story being like, is it too much? Is it annoying if I say anything? And like not saying anything.
I don't want to be whiny.
Yeah, like I don't want to feel like I'm complaining or needy and all this stuff. And it's like, no, like
speak your needs.
Like I'm going to speak up for what I'm experiencing here, and this relationship matters to me, and the relationship matters to you. Yeah. So it's important that we speak to like there's something that's off here, and it's not always going to be like a sexy fun conversation, but it's necessary. And always, in my experience with you, is every time we do come back together and we sit and we allow ourselves to open the conversation and we say all the things that might have been bothering us, which we did, like,
yeah, you let me vent for a while. Yep. And then even at one point you're like, is there anything else? And I was like, yeah, there's one other thing. And I was rambling for a while, and yep. it felt super awkward. I mean, it felt super awkward to sort of list like, oh, I've resentment about this, and I feel resentment about this, and I've been holding on to this, and like this super minor, tiny, superficial thing. Yeah, I'm pissed off about that too. And to just like really go into the mucks of my body and just scrape it all out and be like, oh yeah, and there's that. And to your credit, you received it very well.
Thank you.
And it helped me to have space now to then fill it with connection and love and intimacy and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah. And at the end of all of it is like I always feel more connected. I always feel like it's always a good idea for us to have those conversations. And we just get to I mean, I know I left you a note the next morning.
You did.
And like
you said sorry for
being a bitch.
Yeah, and I was like, that was a bit strong.
Like I could feel my bitchy tendency wanting to show up, like that energy. It was reactive. It was reactive, and it was very ego, and it was very victim. And grateful to have the teachers that I do and do the work that I do to like know it, name it, feel it, and be like, that's not me, and that's not how I really want to be showing up here. Yeah. Though she definitely showed up a little bit.
Yeah, she did.
But like we've said in previous podcasts, that's like name the thing as soon as you can. And like, of course, given if like the energy and the environment is open and it's willing and your partner's like, yes, we can talk about this now. And that was something that we also stopped doing. Stopped being radically honest with what we needed and what we were experiencing. And we stopped naming the things that were bothering us. And so it did build. And then the disconnect. And then we came back together, and then we allowed it all to kind of come to the table. And then we just kind of came together with the negotiation or the commitment, the devotion to what supports us moving forward. And it felt really good. It felt like a purge. It felt like a really necessary cleaning that needed to happen. Yeah.
And you love cleaning.
I love it.
You do. One final piece that I would add is that you described it like that you felt like my roommate.
Yeah.
Rather than it being in a relationship with me. And I think that's just a useful distinction or clarification for someone listening of like what did you feel, what does disconnection feel like? It feels like I live with another person and like and I'm kind of annoyed at them right now.
It was like superficial, and it was lacking the depth.
It was short too. It was like, how are you doing? Yeah, good.
Yeah, so superficial, and like lacking the depth of like meaningful, deep, like inquisitive conversations. Like, what are you excited about? Like, what's going on in your world? And like that fun excitement and like blasting fun ideas off of each other.
Yeah, I remember you saying like, I feel like you don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And then part of me was like, I feel so sad about that. And then also another part of me was like, I really don't want to talk to anyone right now. I'm tired of talking. Like I really am feeling empty. But then
which is okay.
It is okay, but I bit my tongue and I like pushed that right down.
Yeah.
And that caused the problem rather than just saying, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
Or like, now is not a good time because X, Y, and Z, but like I got you and I want to talk to you in the future when I feel like I really do want to talk to you.
Yeah. Something, I know that we're like wanting to wrap this up, but something I really quickly want to say to that is like something else that I feel we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to bring it back up is like trusting in each other's like sovereignty.
Yeah.
That what's going to come up for the other person is like, they're going to be okay. Like, for example, if I were to say, I feel like you don't want to talk to me, and if you're like, actually, my truth is, yeah, I don't, and I don't want to talk to anybody, and it's not personal, and it's up to me how I'm going to take that, and it's up to me to be able to do the process. Like, does that trigger me? What's activated? What do I get to look at here? And for me to really do the work of like, yeah, it's not personal. That's his truth. And how many times like have I felt like I don't want to freaking talk to anybody, and it's not personal. So it allows me to like, it allows each other to be like, take our own medicine, like reflect into like, yeah, this is my truth, and I'm not gonna enable or baby your experience. You trust in Like, we trust in each other's agency to be able to hold ourselves with what is presented to us.
I think the big caveat there is that when communicating difficult truths, it's done with grace and love and kindness.
Yeah, a lot
so
of
it's
compassion.
not just, I don't want to talk to you right now. It's not that sassy, get fucked kind of vibe. It's like, it's recognizing how the other person might receive it when I say it.
Yeah.
I think that's my intention, at least.
Yeah.
And does it work out every time? No, but I think as an intention, that's really valuable to shoot for.
What's the saying that you say?
I mean, I say a lot of shit.
You say, love yourself enough to be okay disappointing others.
Other people.
Other people.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's not, of course, not saying it like an asshole and just like being intentional, but it's like,
I feel like you don't want to talk to me. You're like, damn right I want to talk
like,
to you. You've been crying all day long.
like,
You're
I
annoying.
I don't even want to look at you. Get out of here.
Scram.
But just like, you know what? There's some truth to that, and it's not personal. There's been a lot in my world, and I really I do need space and some quiet and some solitude.
Now is not a good time.
Now is not a good time. I love you, and I'm happy to talk like after I've like filled my cup a bit. My cup is empty.
Yeah, and it's like, I love you enough to disappoint you in this moment because I love you enough to give you my best.
Yeah.
And I love you enough that you deserve my best.
To give you my truth and my honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll reconvene when that
Yeah.
is. And you trust me enough to recognize that I'm going to go and fill my cup to get back to my best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that feels like a pretty solid
good.
conversation.
We're back back together, and
Well, we
didn't like leave, but we drifted, and now we're back sailing partners at sea.
Our boats are significantly closer.
They're
What kind of boat would yours be?
what would you picture?
Go ahead and then I'll tell you.
I was gonna say a pirate ship.
Yeah, I was gonna say a pirate ship.
What would yours be?
Like a tugboat?
I was gonna say a tugboat. If anybody's seen South Park, the tugboat with what's his name? Anyway.
Well, do you know how like they had that big shipping container get stuck in that little canal a while ago? Was it the Suez Canal?
Oh yeah.
And then all the tugboats came out. That filled me with glee. I was like, look at those little tugboats trying to move that ship.
Who is that?
Tommy the tugboat? Or
no, there was a South Park episode, and he's an actor, and he has a tugboat, and his thing is like fighting around the world. He's just going around fighting people.
I'll just Google it real quick.
And he's got his tugboat named Tugger.
Russell Crowe. That's
just what that reminds me of.
It's cute. I could see it. I'm into it.
Hey, it's so funny. This being said,
we should wrap it up now.
Something else really important to say is that we allowed ourselves to also process. This was a really great learning experience for us both, individually and in the relationship.
Yeah. And
I really feel like I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud of us both for like going all into feeling it all and to really recognizing like where the disconnect was. And I feel like it's not only made our relationship stronger, but I feel like it's made us as individuals stronger. Like I feel very grounded and on the other side of experiencing what I did. And for you too, I'm witnessing like there's almost like a heightened sense of like the capacity that you can hold from what you experienced. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all growth opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like we were at the gym for like 2 weeks. We were at the grief gym.
We were at the grief gym.
Yeah.
We were working it out.
We were pumping iron.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like tired. I'm tired of the grief gym. I want to go to the grief ice cream store, the grief burrito factory. The grief
spa.
Yeah, the grief spa. Just chill out and rest my weary grief muscles.
Yep.
And then life was like, no rest for the weary, more grief for you. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
And thanks for the shares and the likes, and reach out to us on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. If anything came up for you here that you have questions about or you want to share.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a coaching thing too. I know we keep saying that, but like we really are going to be taking on some folks for a group for like a 12-week thing. And so if you made it to the end of this, I mean, you might want to check out that thing, because it's basically this.
Yeah. Everything that we
And,
talked about today, a lot of support in the practice of going into those moments of grief and cultivating communication. And this round is going to be
Good.
really great. We've got some,
Got
we
some
just have
surprises.
some fun things
Yeah.
coming with that. But as we expressed, this month was kind of like
was a
put
shit
on
show.
hold. And so things are going to come back into the realms.
We're
in
working
May.
again. We've got our working pants on again.
Yeah, we're back in that realm. Yeah.
Guess who's back?
Thank you, everybody.